It's very, very clear we have a narrow House majority, and we need to be able to deliver and to govern on President Trump's agenda starting on day one. So that's going to be my priority. I'm very, very proud of our, of course, next UN ambassador, Elise Stefanik. She's been a good friend of mine and a great mentor to me here in Congress as well. And I look forward to seeing the Senate do its job to confirm all of President Trump's nominees so that we can execute on that agenda. But look, we have a very narrow House majority. We have one right now. I would like to see us work together, and hopefully, I think what you're seeing here on the Hill right now is definitely a more unified government approach, and certainly in our House Republican Conference, we are feeling that momentum heading into the next Congress.
Well, as the Senate does have to confirm these nominees, should they be armed with all potentially available information when they do so, specifically when it pertains to your now former colleague, Matt Gaetz? Does that ethics report need to come out?
Well, I think, look who's going to be chairing the Senate Judiciary Committee. Every single one of these nominees is going to get a thorough vetting from my colleague from Iowa in Senator Chuck Grassley. I know he has a lot of experience in going through this process, so I would just encourage all of the senators to do their job and vet every nominee. But I think we do need to get these nominees through. President Trump did win this election. We need to make sure that his picks do get that vetting, but that we can get them into place as soon as possible.
Well, all of that, of course, is going to come in the next Congress, and there is still been a business to finish in this one, including sorting out funding by the deadline in December. Congresswoman, we were speaking with your colleague Andy Barr of Kentucky yesterday, who suggested to us he does not want to see the can kicked down the road with another continuing resolution, that there needs to be a clean slate in January, and that means actually getting the appropriations bills passed. I just wonder if that means we're either going to end up with that CR that he doesn't want or some kind of omnibus to end the year.
Yeah, well, I certainly don't want to see an omnibus. As a House appropriator, I've worked tirelessly to get all 12 of these individual appropriations bills across the finish line. I'm very frustrated that we haven't been able to do that. But I do want to, again, make sure that on day one, come the next 119th Congress, that we're giving President Trump the best success plan. I do think that also means clearing the stack, but I'm going to wait to hear from the president. And I know our appropriations chair, Tom Cole, is planning to do the same. We want to see what he wants to do in terms of government funding. And all of that is going to have to, kind of come colliding in with the end of year priorities for the Farm Bill. We're already talking about what the tax bill for next year is going to look like. So we just want to make sure that we're doing this right. What I don't want to see is a continuation of a lot of really, really bad Democrat policies that we've had to negotiate on over the past couple of years. I think with the current balance of power and knowing what's coming in the next Congress, I think some of my colleagues across the aisle may be a little bit more willing to negotiate heading into the end of the year.
Well, I did want to ask you about that Farm Bill, Congresswoman, considering you are representing constituents in Iowa that could be affected ultimately by this. What is the prospect of that actually happening in this lame duck session?
Yeah, well, I've continued to advocate to our leadership about this. Our producers and our manufacturers need this long-term stability. We have some great investments in there for precision agriculture, for trade, which I know is going to be a huge priority for the next administration. Hasn't been much of one under the current administration. So there are a lot of provisions in there that I am excited to see move forward that I think are not only about preserving our food security, which I think is national security, but also, again, making sure that we can be competitive on the global stage. So I will continue to advocate to our leadership to hopefully get that done in the next couple of weeks. Again, I would defer to the chairman on that, G.T. Thompson, who's been working in a bipartisan way. I know that passed out of the House with bipartisan votes out of the House Agriculture Committee. And our Senate counterparts haven't done any bill yet. So that's a little disheartening. But again, I'm hopeful that they'll take up our House bill, and I'll continue to put pressure on our leadership to do that.
Well, Congresswoman, I'd like to pick up on your trade point, because earlier this week here on Balance of Power, we spoke with the CEO of Landis, which is an agricultural services company, Matt Carstens. And this is what he had to say about the way in which trade relationships as it influences agriculture should be approached. Take a listen and I'll have you respond.
We've got to make sure that both sides are being understood, whatever the solve is and whatever the cause and effect is to agriculture, because those international markets are absolutely critical for companies like Landis and Conduit that are trying to move those goods out of our state, out of the Midwest, and get them into a position to go into a global market. And when you lose a volume like we have to China, that has a long-term ripple effect, and it's hard to recover from.
So, Congresswoman, as the president-elect has talked about ratcheting up tariffs on China, what should farmers in the agricultural community be bracing for in terms of potential retaliation?
Yeah. Well, for every action that we take, we know China is going to take some sort of action and to retaliate. I think the most important thing here is that President Trump is the first president in a long time to actually stand up to the Chinese Communist Party and to stand up to President Xi. If there's one thing that I know, it's that China's been taking advantage of the United States for decades. They haven't been following normal trade rules. And while they are a very critical market for our producers, not just from Iowa, but from this country, we need to make sure that we are playing fair going forward. You know, it was in my district just about 10 years ago that the Chinese were discovered trying to literally steal seeds to take them back to China to reverse engineer them and cheat. So they're cheating, they're trying to steal our intellectual property, whether that's in the manufacturing space or in the agriculture space. So I look forward to seeing a tough stance on China. This current administration has not taken a tough stance, has really acquiesced there. And now we see that debt trap diplomacy continuing to happen all over the world with President Xi, you know, going around and handing out cash to all of these nations. We need to be making sure we're making entrees to people who, not just for trade relationships, but for defense purposes as well. And I will look forward to seeing, you know, our new defense secretary and the president work to achieve those goals so we can actually be competitive on the global stage again.
Well, we have seen this administration leave intact the tariffs in large part that were put into place in the Trump administration and expand export controls as well. But you, of course, sit on the China Select Committee, which makes you a very valuable voice on this. And I wonder if you support that committee's chairman, Chairman Molinar's legislation that he put forward this week to revoke China's normal trade status. Are the votes there for that?
We're definitely taking a look at all bills, but I think what I support about the chairman is that he is taking a tough stance on China. They have not been following the rules. I'm not sure if that bill is the ultimate answer here. We definitely want to be cognizant of the impact to agricultural states like Iowa, and that is one thing that I heard loud and clear from my producers is, you know, we still need to be able to sell our products to China. So I want to be cognizant of that in any stance that we take. It is a pretty bold stance, and what I will say is that I think we do need to be signaling, though, that we're ready to get tough on them, right? If you don't play by the rules and you don't start playing on a level playing field and you continue with these malign practices, then there are going to be some consequences there, and I support the chairman in his efforts to do that.
Well, President Biden is going to be sitting down with Chinese President Xi Jinping in person tomorrow on the sidelines of the APEC summit in Peru. It's their third such meeting of his presidency. And obviously, as his presidency is almost over, it will be the last. And I wonder if you still see room here for some kind of forward movement to be made when it comes to this relationship and the normalization of communication here before President Trump takes office in January.
Well, I think communication is always a key goal, no matter who it is that we're trying to work with. As I said, we need to make sure we still preserve those markets for trade going forward. I'm hopeful President Biden will continue to hopefully express that we need to have American dominance. America needs to be strong on the global stage. And again, this is about fairness and a level playing field. And so I think what we will see is President Xi probably take a little bit of a different posture, knowing who's coming in next. He's seen this show before. He knows that President Trump talks tough, carries that. He's not, you know, speak softly and carry a big stick. No, it's speak loudly and carry a big stick too. So I think that he certainly understands what's coming down the pipeline. But again, my goal for diplomatic relations is always going to be able to have open lines of communication.
How important, as we don't have the announcement yet as to who Donald Trump would like this to be, Congresswoman, will the U.S. trade representative be in this next administration? And is there anyone you hope gets the job?
Yeah. Well, certainly Ambassador Lighthizer did a, I think, fantastic job. We've had him actually as a witness before our China Select Committee several times to talk about the importance of trade. I would certainly hope someone like him is being considered for that. You know, it took far too long for the Biden administration to get a trade representative in place. I think we have suffered economically. We see major gaps in our trade export numbers, and we are actually experiencing a deficit in that in some key sectors for the first time. We need to reverse that, and I think that someone like Ambassador Lighthizer would be great if he decides to come back. But I look forward to seeing who the president picks to fill out the rest of his cabinet, because I do think Agriculture Secretary and obviously Trade Rep are going to be critical for a state like Iowa.